Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of CR Exposed. On today's episode we are looking at the D&D 5e Monster Manual 2025 edition of the Quasit, a tiny fiend. So let's go ahead and start plugging in the numbers and see if we can find ourselves a CR1 or not. So with that thought in mind, let's go ahead and throw in 13 AC. We are expecting a tiny monster here with 10 hit dice. Okay. I was just thinking that that's a lot of hit dice, but it is a tiny creature. From there, we're going to add in 5 strength, 17 dex, 10 constitution, 7 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 10 charisma. From there, we have a few items here. We have cold, fire, and lightning. These are primarily going to be against our spellcasters, but because we have 3, we do have to take that into consideration. So we'll go ahead and drop that in, which gives us a bump in our hit points of ×2 against spellcasters. Make a note there, because primarily at this level, we're not going to see a lot of spells besides, cantrips. So who knows if this is even going to be a thing to consider or not, because our melee are going to decimate the Quasit for sure. Now, after that, we do have 1 immunity, but it's poison, and as I've mentioned before, poison is such a highly immunized and resisted damage that we can basically just kind of ignore that unless we have enough to trigger the immunities, but we don't. So we're going to move on to our traits, and we have magic resistance. So we're going to come over to the side here, pick magic resistance, and give ourselves a +2 effective AC bonus. From there, we are done with our traits, and we move into the actions. Now, we have several actions to choose from. Rend, Scare, Shapeshift, and Invisibility. We don't need to worry about Shapeshift because that is just kind of done before combat or to get out of combat, like shapeshifting into a flying creature that they can then fly away with. We have Invisibility. This is your kind of get out of jail card. If the Quasit's about to die, you cast Invisibility and you run away. Similar idea with Scare. Scare is once per day, and we don't really need to worry about it, so we're going to kind of skip over Scare for the time being. If we find that the Scare is something we may need, we will go ahead and add it in, but for the time being, let's just go ahead and throw in the Rend to take a look at our damage here. So our damage is coming from Dexterity, and that is going to be a 5 here, as we see up at top. We are also doing 5.5 points of damage here, so we'll go ahead and make that change. So this is going to be Dexterity 5.5, and we will go ahead and throw that into here. On top of that, it does slashing damage, and the target has the poison condition until the start of the Quasit's next turn. So in theory, we will be seeing the creature being poisoned constantly, and poisoned is like the stench ability from the troglodyte. So we go ahead and pop that in, and that gives us +1 effective AC as well. From there, we will go ahead and just kind of throw in our damage. Now, our damage is going to be the same every round. We're doing this once. That's it. 5 points of damage, and what do you know? We technically have a CR1 Quasit. Now, I say technically because we have a 1/2 and a 1. So if we were to average all that out, we're actually looking at 0.75. So technically it's not a true CR1 monster. So what I would do is increase the damage of the Quasit ever so slightly, just to make sure that it's an even 1 across the board here. So in order to do that, I would say let's bump the D4 to a D6. That gives us enough damage to bump our Quasit's damage into the CR1 range, and with its bonuses to hit, even though it's only doing, now from 5 to 6 points of damage, it's the appropriate amount, and we are now bumped into the CR1 range. Shoot, we could even go to a D8 and still not see any kind of a change, because that then moves us into 7.5, which is at the minimal or the maximum that we can expect. And just for the sake of it, let's take a look at 10. If we were to go up to a D10 in damage, we still wouldn't be technically going overboard because we're at 8.5 rather than 7.5. So we could go anywhere around here. Just for the sake of not scaring the hell out of our players here, I would say keep it to a D6. We have a proper CR1 Quasit, and we're good to go. But But we need to take a look at removing the resistances here. So the problem with this monster is that we're expecting all of it to be cold, fire, and lightning damage. But our melee definitely are going to be bypassing that. So let's get rid of this. If we bypass the resistances, we're now looking at a CR 1/2 Quasit. This is the big problem that we had back in the 2014 edition, where we'd had all these monsters with resistances and whatnot. This bloats the hit points because now we're expecting our monster to only be attacked with this sort of stuff, and we would go from there. But we don't know, I mean, technically we would know that our party has the party composition, and in theory, we wouldn't throw in Quasits, or we wouldn't use them in a place that they're going to be attacked. So in this case, you really only want to, as a GM, putting a Quasit into an encounter where you have a lot of spellcasters that are using cold, fire, and lightning to make sure you get those resistances. You don't want to use a Quasit when your party is primarily, barbarians and maybe a bard. So we don't want to really worry about that. So in essence, this is the suggestion. Don't use a Quasit if your group is primarily melee. Use a Quasit if you have a lot of spellcasters. Then you have yourself a CR1 Quasit. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to get this tool for yourself, look at the link in the description below where you can go to my Ko-fi page where you can get the tool for free, completely for free, or you can donate if you feel so obliged to. You can also support the channel in a variety of different ways, where you can also download and check out some of the subclasses I have, like the Ronin subclass, or you can get a bunch of monsters. There's also actual classes that I'm working on, like the Performer class, the Gunslinger class, or the Chemist class, and some others that are in the works. You can also purchase some of the scripts and monsters that I've created for D&D 5th edition or Tales of the Valiant here. You can also become a Ko-fi supporter, where you can donate as little as $1 a month to get early access to videos and behind the scenes content that I'm doing for the channel. Or you can also join me here on YouTube and become a member here as well for, again, as little as much as $1 a month, where you can get early access to videos that I make as soon as they're posted. Or you can also comment, like, share, subscribe to the hundreds of other videos that I have here on my channel. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.